In this video, I'm going to be installing a set of Bilstein 5100 rear shocks on a 5th generation 4Runner. I've got another video on my channel that goes over the front install instructions. If you want to take a look at that, I'll put a link to it in the description below. Now, I do want to point out that I'm not an expert mechanic, and so following these instructions is at your own risk. I would highly recommend that you look at a number of other resources that are out there before completing this installation on your own. Now, if you're not familiar with the 5100 setup, it's a really good value option that's very popular among Toyota owners. With the front set of the Bilstein 5100s, it reuses the factory coils, which helps you save money. The 5100s result in a really nice improvement in the overall ride quality, really stiffens up the ride quite a bit, also increases travel, which helps with off-road driving. And with the 5100s, you can lift your vehicle up to 2.5 inches in the front and up to 2 inches in the rear. Now, I got my set of Bilstein 5100s from a website called BilsteinLifts.com. It's a really great website that I definitely recommend that you take a look at. They offer parts for a variety of makes and models, but they seem to have a focus on Toyota vehicles. If you go to their website, you can put in your make, model, and generation, and it gives you a full parts list of parts that will fit your vehicle. With suspension kits, they've got a wide range of options from really basic spacer kits up to really high-end options, and the 5100s sitting right there in the middle. Set of Bilstein 5100s are currently running $446 on their website, but if you use the coupon code MikeC, they'll give you an additional 10% off. This is the rear Bilstein 5100 shock that I'm going to be installing on the vehicle, and one thing that I do want to point out is that you can't lift the vehicle with a shock alone. And so to lift the rear end of the 4Runner, this allows you the additional travel to lift it, but to actually lift it, you need either a spacer or a new coil that is longer than the stock coil. Now, for this video, I'm just going to be leaving the rear end of the vehicle at its stock height. It is worth noting that with the 5100s, you can lift the front of the vehicle without any additional parts. Now, for the installation, first thing you want to do is jack up the vehicle. Floor jacks can make that a lot easier, and then get a couple of jack stands in place as an additional precaution in case the jack that's holding the vehicle up were to fail. Once we've done that, then we're going to remove the wheel where we're replacing the shock. All right, so this is the shock assembly that we're going to be removing. It's held in with a 17mm bolt up at the top and another 17mm bolt down here at the bottom. So we're going to remove this one first. Once we've got that removed, then we're going to position this additional floor jack underneath to hold the weight of this assembly. Then we're going to loosen this top 17mm bolt, and as we pull this out, the weight, rather than being supported by the shock, is now going to be supported by this floor jack. The other thing to keep in mind as you're doing that is with this top 17mm bolt, as you loosen it, the whole assembly is going to want to shift on you. So you want to use a set of channel locks, just kind of clamp them on right here, prevent this from twisting so that you can get the leverage that you need to remove that 17mm bolt. Now that we got that bottom bolt off and the top bolt off, we're now going to lower down the floor jack very slowly to allow this whole assembly to move out of position so that we can get the shock out. This is on here pretty tight at the bottom, so we're just going to use a pry bar very gently, just kind of pry it off the bottom. And actually, the other thing that I think we can do is push down on the shock. Give us a better angle to pull that out. I need to pull this floor jack out of the way too. And there we go. Almost off. There we go. So the old shock is off. This is the old and new rear shock side by side. Before we install the new one, we're going to take one of these little metal caps, slide it on there, and then take one of these rubber guys with the little piece that's coming out, point it up. I'm going to slide that all the way down the assembly, and then once we've got it on, we're going to install it, and these three pieces will go on top of the mount of the vehicle. So next we're going to take the new shock assembly, slide it into place. This is going to be a little bit trickier to get back in than it was to take the old one out, because this has additional travel and it's stiffer. So we're going to slide on that bottom piece, and we're going to push down and compress it, and then line it up with that hole where it's going to be installed. Alright, so now we got it lined up in there. Next we will take this other new little gasket that we had, metal plate. Again, this is going to be pointing down, just as the other one was pointing up. And that way it's kind of going down through the hole that we've got in the mount here. Push that on. And then we're going to use the jack, push this up a little bit and compress the shock a tad. So we push this down a little further. Then we'll take the washer, facing it down this way, and then we got the nut here that's going to go on top. So the top's not sticking through quite as much as I'd like, so it looks like we need to lift the jack up a bit more. Get it in a better position first. And this will compress that shock again. Get that top to stick through a little more. Now this new one is 19mm, unlike the 17 that we already put on. So we need a different wrench for that. And you gotta hold on to the shock as we're tightening this top piece so it doesn't twist. Alright, before we finish tightening up top, we're gonna put this bolt in here. We'll get it hand tight and then tighten it up to spec. Alright, now that the bottom bolt is in, we'll make sure we got this all the way tight. This is going to take a little bit of time because we got to use a crescent wrench up here. Just tighten this top bolt up to spec, and then we're good to go. As you're doing it, we do want to make sure that you don't let the assembly rotate, so that's why I've got the channel locks hooked on down below here to make sure we don't spin it all. So the new rear shock is installed. Last step that we've got to do is we've got to jack the vehicle up a little bit higher because of the additional travel that you get with the 5100s. The disc here is sitting lower to the floor, so just got to lift the whole vehicle up so that we can get the wheel back on. With the rear wheel back on the car, the lift installation is now complete for the Bilstein 5100s. Stay posted to see the upgraded wheel and tire package that I'm going to be putting on the vehicle. If you have any comments or questions, leave them in the section below. And for more 5th generation 4Runner videos, be sure to subscribe. In the meantime, thanks for watching.